Yeah, the heat, the sea, the fire, the vibe, the bomb, the songs, the ohms. For God, this is a generation. For God, we are a generation. For God, you can see it in my eyes.
Alright, welcome back guys to HFOG TV. This is part 2 of recording with Pro Tools. Basic recording with Pro Tools. I want to thank y'all for joining me. My name is Juke. I've been recording music now for about 13 years. You can check my music out at jukeworld, jukworld.com. I'm also the creator of the Hip Hop Gospels, hiphopholybible.com, and this is holyfireofgod.com, HFOG TV, Music Monday. So what I want to do is just continue on where we were talking about last week. So last week we imported a track, and if you want to check that out, definitely check out part 1 of this episode. Okay, so here we go. We imported the track. We recorded our raps down. We have our backup tracks, and we have ad-libs. Now, what do we do from here? And we layered our ad-libs, so now you have ad-libs coming in on a right ear and left ear. And we also layered our backup tracks, so now it sounds really thick. All right, so let's talk about some stuff that we might want to do to the rap vocals, okay? So, again, if you want to toggle between screens, you go Apple plus sign, Apple plus sign. All right, so first thing we might want to do is add a de-esser on here, okay? What does a de-esser do? It takes out the S sound, prevalent sound when you're doing vocals. It'll take it out. It'll lessen it, because otherwise it can sound really hissy in your ears when you're listening to it. It's not a good sound. So what you want to do, you want to add a de-esser. There comes with a Pro Tools comes with a de-esser. So we'll go up here to our inserts, and we'll go to plugins, and we'll go to dynamics, and we'll go to de-esser. Boom, we have our de-esser. You want to do high frequency. Those are all high frequency. Low frequency is, there's low instruments on low frequency. The bass, the kick drum, all those things are low frequency. This is high frequency, so we want to click on high frequency. And I generally move it to maybe 5, 6, or 7. And so what that's going to do is that's going to cut, it's going to cut off the annoyance of that high sound. And you generally want to do that on your vocals, especially your main vocal. You definitely want to have a de-esser on there. All right, next we want to put a compressor on here. What a compressor does is it basically compresses our vocals. So your vocals go from maybe here to here, and a compressor is going to compress them down so that you can turn the volume up maybe on them, and it'll sound fuller. Some people, they've been using compressors for years now. Some people still don't like them, though. You know, they'd rather have the raw vocal. And there is over compressing your vocals. See, what it does is it compresses them down, so it also takes out the natural sound of them a little bit. So you just want to use a little bit of compression on your vocals, not too much. So you go over here to the plugin that Pro Tools comes with, Dynamics. Go to Compressor, and you can put a compressor on your vocals. They have some defaults here that you can use. Go up here, factory default. You can do a vocal comp or a vocal leveler. For me, I just, with the compressor here, you have a threshold, okay? This threshold is this yellow line here. It moves across the screen. And that means that's the point at which the compressor starts to be used. So at the threshold, see, if you put the threshold down here, that means that at an earlier point, your vocals will be compressed, so it won't be as loud. If you put them all the way up here, it'll only be compressed like toward the end of your vocals, toward only certain points in your vocals. And so I generally keep mine about 12, maybe. And you can play with the gain. The gain is how loud you have it, how quiet you have it. I generally keep the gain about 0, and I'll change the threshold to about 12.8. So that means that at 12.8 or 11.7 dB, that's where the compressor will kick in. it'll kick in. See, if I bring it all the way down here, the compressor starts to kick in at 31.5. So it starts to compress the vocals much earlier. But I want to keep a lot of those that natural sound in there. So I'll compress at about 12.3. Okay, so here we go. X out of there. Now, okay, so now what we'll also do is we'll add a delay effect to one of our backup vocals. You know, you always want to keep things interesting. So if one backup vocal is maybe a just raw track, meaning it's just the vocal, then you want to add another one, the next backup vocal, maybe put a little effect on it to add a little interest to it. So I put a medium delay on this backup track. You go to plugin, delay, you go to medium delay 2, mono. All right, and you want to bring this gain all the way over to the right, and then add your mix in. This is what gives you the delay. So you want to add it in. If you delay it all the way out here, it's going to sound really delayed. So you just want a little effect, just a little bit of pepper, a little bit of salt. All right, so we'll put it maybe over here at 14%. X out. So now we have a little bit of a difference in our backup vocals. Over here on our main backup, you know, we saw last week that I busted over from bus 7 and 8 over to this auxiliary central channel, the central backup channel. And I'm going to add a deesser on that backup so that, again, my S's aren't really loud and really obnoxious. So I go over here, I click on high frequency only, and I'll go maybe 5, 6, and I'll press X out of there. Okay. So now we have our raps. What I also want to do is I want to add an EQ to your vocals, okay? So your vocal range, the vocal range is measured in hertz. So it goes from negative 20K, 20,000 hertz, all the way up to 20,000 hertz. So that's your vocal range. So the real low stuff is generally, it comes in on this lower vocal range. High stuff, like that high frequency stuff, is up here in the 5K range, 6K, 20K, stuff like that. Your hi-hats are all going to be in that upper range back there. Your low, you know, drum kicks and bass is going to be down here in this lower part. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to take out some of the lower muffle in the vocal. In my vocal, as I'm speaking right now, there's a lower part of my vocal that is not really needed. And what we want to do is we want to take it out so that it doesn't fight with the other stuff in the song that should be lower. For instance, your bass, your drum kick, those are the things that need to fill up that lower part of the spectrum of your vocal range. Like when you're hearing stuff in your headphones, you're hearing a low part. There's a low part to it, the bass, the kick drum, and then there's high stuff, hi-hats, vocals, stuff like that. So we want to take out anything that's we're not really using. And so in your vocal range, especially in a woman's vocal range, that lower part, we want to take that out. We want to cut that out. So what we'll do over here is we'll do a cut. We'll go over here. We'll press in, and maybe I'll take out 110 hertz. Okay, and I might just move it up a little bit. Okay, so that means that all my vocals that are in this range of 110 have just been cut out, and it stays just with the most solid part of my vocals, which is that mid to upper range. Okay, so I cut out that lower range so that it won't fight with the lower parts of the music. All right, and also it won't give me a muffled sound. It'll give me more of a clear sound to my vocal. So boom, we took out that low part, the muffled part of our vocals. And you can do that on your different vocals if you want. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to bring in an auxiliary vocal track. So we're going to go up here to track. So this is going to be, we're going to do Apple Plus. This is going to be, what we're going to do is we're going to bring in an aux track that we can send all of our vocals to, a bus track that we can send all of our vocals to, okay? Because we're going to add some, we're going to mix that central vocal track. So when you're mixing your music, you have all of these vocal tracks, and you're going to send them over to this one vocal track in order to mix. You have all of these drum tracks. You're going to send them over to this one drum track, or two, a snare and a kick drum track, to mix them together. So now instead of mixing a million different tracks together, you just have a vocal track, you have a drum track, you have maybe a bass track, you have a guitar track and a piano track, and or a strings track where all your different strings come into, and so you're mixing with only 5 tracks as opposed to mixing with all these different tracks. So then mixing becomes a process of 2. First, to mix all your individual regions into one track, into one AUX track, meaning mixing your vocals into one vocal track, your drums into one drum track, and then taking those maybe 5 parts of the song, 5 tracks of the song, vocals, drums, guitars, pianos, and then mixing those together to come up with the best sound, and then mastering that. Okay, we have our vocal tracks here. We have our rap track, backup, ad-lib track, our regular track here, our original beat, and now what we're going to do is we're going to create these AUX tracks. First, we're going to create a vocal track. We're going to call it lyric, okay? So you go up here, track, new, create an AUX track. For AUX tracks, you want to do it on a stereo. So stereo, boom, and we create it. I already have it, so I'm not going to create it. I'll just show mine, control, show. So now I have this lyric track. If you scroll down, you can see it. Lyric right there, it's an AUX track. I press Apple Plus, brings me over there. And so I have this lyric track. And now, so what I want to do now is I want to create a track I call a routing track, which is right before the master track. I want to bring all of my auxiliary tracks into this routing track, and then I'm just going to take that routing track and bring it into the master track. You could just bring all of your AUX tracks into a master track, that's fine, but I just like to do it. I like to bring my AUX tracks into one track so that I can put a limiter on that one track and then bring that track into the mastering track. Some people might just want to do AUX tracks into a master track and put the limiter on the master track. I just take it one step further. So I bring all of my AUX tracks into one AUX track called the routing track, and then I take that, I put a master, I put the Oxford limiter on the routing track, and then I bring that into my master track, and that master track is what you hear on your CD. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to here, create one track, new, we'll create a stereo, and we'll go to AUX track, and we'll press create. I'm not going to press create because I already have it here, so I'm just going to show it. Boom, that's my routing track. Okay, so now we have our individual tracks. We have our beat here and our vocal stuff here, and now we brought all of our vocals into this lyric track. Now what I want to do is I want to create a couple things on this lyric. I'm going to add one more Deesser here on the lyric, dynamics, Deesser, boom, and high frequency only. I'm going to go to about 5. Just in case there's still a little bit of S sounds on those vocals, it's going to take that off. And for this EQ part, I'm going to put an EQ on that lyric track, that central AUX track. I already put one earlier, so normally I only put it on the lyric track, but I wanted to show you earlier, and we'll do it one more time just so you get a feel for it. So we'll go here, multi-channel plugin, we'll go to EQ, we'll go to 7-band EQ. And now what we'll do, you see I clicked on here, took out the lower part at 110. You can also take out this middle section a little bit. I found in my vocals this is the best way to do it for me. And I took that out by 1 dB, and then I added a little bit on the high end, a little bit upper end, okay? And you do that by, this is my yellow, boom, I can take that out, move it up. So I took out a little bit on that. On my green right here, I pushed it over to 3K. So at 3 kilohertz, I added a little bit to it. So I could take out the 3 kilohertz, You can play with it to your mix, whatever feels good for you. And I added a little bit of a boost there. And then at 4.6K, I also added a little bit of a boost there, okay? So that's going to bring up my high end of my vocals a little more. Okay, so now I have this routing track. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add an Oxford limiter to it. Now, this doesn't come with Pro Tools. You have to buy that separately. That's just something that I had to have. It is expensive. I don't know, $500-600 or something, but I had to have it, so I bought it. So this Oxford limiter, go into here. Once you buy it, it'll be in your plugins. I went to Dynamics, Oxford limiter, bam. I have the iLock, so it automatically allows me to do that. And I'm going to go ahead and put the limiter on there. There's different things you can do with it, but basically it allows me to do this music stuff, okay? I have the routing track now. Everything is brought into this routing track. Now I want to add a master track, and everything will be brought over to that master track, okay? So here we go up here, file, track, new, and we'll go stereo, and we'll add our master track. Create. I'm not going to do it because I already have it there. So it's created. Boom. So anytime you do a bus track, and a bus track again is an aux track, okay? Anytime you have that, you're taking all of those tracks and you're bringing them into one track. Well, how do you do that? Okay, so it deals with input and output. Okay, so input is going to be the lyric track. So input, we're going to go to bus, find an empty bus. We'll go to 11 and 12. So that's our bus input. Now output is the tracks that are getting sent in to that input track. So we'll go over here, our rap. We want our rap over on the lyric track. So we'll go to bus. And we'll go to 11 and 12. Now, what else do we want on there? Well, we have our backups track here, so we'll go to bus, 11 and 12. And what else? We have our ad-lib track here, so we want to go to bus, 11 and 12 on both of those. And so now we have everything bussed over to this lyric track. Now, in order to take the lyric track and bring it over to the routing track so that we can put the limiter on the routing track, we'll go our output here. Input is up top, output is at the bottom. That's I-O. So it's being inputted. The lyric is inputting all of those other tracks, those vocal tracks, and now it's going to output over to the routing track. Okay, and the routing track is going to input that lyric track. So the output right here will go to 19 and 20, and then we'll find this routing track and we'll bust it in at 19 and 20. So now we have all of the lyric tracks going to the aux lyric track, and they're going into that lyric track. They're going through these effects that we put on, this Deesser. So they go into the lyric track. They're going through the Deesser, taking away all the highs. They're going through the EQ, taking away those lows that we don't want and adding a little bit of nice vocal range there. And they're going to output into the routing track. And so the routing track is now inputting basically the whole project that we have so far. And now it's going to input and it's going to put it through this limiter that we have, okay, right here. So that lyric track, everything is going to go into this limiter, and it's going to basically, like a compressor, compress it down, okay? And so allow it to make it sound louder, okay? In layman terms. All right. Now we're going to take this routing track that everything is done, and we're just going to output it onto our out 1 and 2. The out 1 and 2 is this master fader. So now everything is going to this master fader, and that's the sound that you hear on your CD. So thanks so much for joining me. This has been tutorial 1 on Pro Tools basics, on how to record in Pro Tools. And this has been the second part of this series. We'll do a lot more stuff on Pro Tools and Reason, and we'll get y'all going. You can, again, check me out at jukeworld.com, twitter.com/jukeworld, holyfireofgod.com, and hiphopholybible.com. And we'll see you next time. Thanks so much. Bye.
Yeah. The heat, the sea, the fire, the vibe, the bomb, the songs, the arms. For God, this a generation. For God, we are a generation. For God, you can see it in my eyes. The trials, the passion is real. When I'm fasting, I'm smashing you cats with the seal. This a generation. For God, we are a generation.
Check, yo, I rap acid, spoon feed your raps that are classic.